What you're about to hear can change your reality. And it's not because it's beautiful or deep. It's because it's impossible to go back to the previous state after hearing this. You have a power inside you that no one has ever been able to take away. Not trauma, not pain, not manipulation, not the system. This power is what Thoth called the vibrational key of being, and it was dormant until now. Because this message only shows up when you're ready to remember. And if it found you today, it's because something in your field activated this code. From this point on, nothing you see out there is going to make sense the same way. Because what you're about to access now unlocks a level of vibrational freedom that many have feared. And that's why they tried to hide it for millennia. But it's too late. The code has already recognized you. And now, you're going to remember. No man can give you what is already in you. Only your remembrance can free what sleeps within your own being. There's a point from which everything emanates. And if it's weakened, everything falls apart. But this point isn't outside. It's not in money, relationships, your body, or status. It's in something so intimate, so deep, that most people go their whole lives without even realizing it exists, the way you see yourself when no one's watching. Self-love. Maybe you think you know what that means. Maybe you've heard that phrase 1,000 times. But here, it has nothing to do with mirror affirmations or accepting yourself as you are. Self-love, at this level, is energy. It's a field. It's the kind of silent vibration you carry when you walk into a place, and it completely changes the way others treat you. It's what determines whether a criticism destroys you or passes through like the wind. It's what decides if you bend to others' expectations or stay whole, even in silence. This love isn't emotional. It's structural. It's the invisible foundation that supports your posture toward life. It's what stops your reality from being shaped by other people's opinions. When that love is active, it doesn't matter if someone tries to belittle you. You don't shrink. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to clap back. Your frequency becomes your shield. Thoth talked about this in his oldest writings. But he didn't use the term self-love. He called it internal sovereignty. And he said, "He who doesn't govern his own field will inevitably be ruled by the field of others." That's exactly what happens every day to billions of people. You wake up, look in the mirror, and even before forming a conscious thought, your field is already vibrating insecurity. And that insecurity starts deciding for you. It decides what you wear, what you say, who you talk to, and, most dangerously, what you believe about yourself. Because when that center is fragile, any comment becomes a sentence. A "you've gained weight" turns into truth. A "nobody's going to want you" turns into destiny. And little by little, you start building a reality based on ideas that were never yours. Ideas planted from the outside, but that ended up controlling everything inside. And the most subtle part of it all is that the weakening doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small, daily doses. You give in here, swallow it there, quietly adapt. Until one day you wake up and don't recognize yourself anymore. This point from which everything emanates isn't mystical, unreachable, or reserved for the initiated. It's so present, so everyday, that it blends into the obvious. It's in how you position yourself, in what you accept, in what you demand. And most importantly, in what you believe you deserve. Because everything you tolerate carries a hidden message. This is what I think I'm worth, and the universe listens. That's why this vibrational center is the first seal. It's the first key that needs to be strengthened, not as theory, but as practice, as presence. Because as long as this center is weak, everything around you is going to feel unstable. You'll think it's the world's fault, or people's, or the governments or karmas. But the truth is, you're trying to hold up a life with no foundation. And there's no way to build anything when the base is cracked. But this is only the first layer of what you have, and they forgot to tell you the rest. The most silent attack, the stolen peace. There's something that, when lost, causes even self-love to crumble. It's not visible, it has no shape, and most of the time, you only realize it's gone when everything inside you is already screaming in silence. That thing is your peace, not the peace of a quiet weekend, not the peace of checking off your to-do list, but the kind of peace that stays even when the world is at war. The one that holds you up when everything around you is trying to throw you off balance. The one you feel without knowing how to explain. But when it's gone, everything feels heavy. And the cruelest part is that it doesn't get ripped away all at once. It gets drained little by little. In the same argument with someone in your family, in the subtle criticism you hear at work, in the silent comparison with someone on social media, in the pressure you put on yourself, thinking it's motivation. These small vibrational robberies seem harmless, but they're what steal your clarity, your presence, and little by little, your ability to make conscious decisions. And the scariest part is realizing how all this happens without you noticing. You keep swallowing it, holding it in, brushing it off, until you get used to living in a state of mild, constant agitation, and then any little thing becomes a trigger, a dirty look, a delay, a snappy reply, and your body goes to war, your field shuts down, your breathing shortens. And without realizing it, you start reacting to the world like you're always under attack. That's the point where you start losing the power to create, because a mind that's only trying to defend itself can't manifest. It's too busy trying to survive, and the spirit, which should be leading your reality, takes a back seat, almost silent. Thoth talked about this when he said the outer world is a reflection of the inner state, and more than that, the reflection is a teacher. What irritates you, hurts you, throws you off, is showing you something inside that still needs to be brought to peace. But this isn't solved with force, it's solved with observation. When you start watching yourself with patience, everything changes. It's not mental self-analysis, it's presence. It's looking at yourself like you'd look at a scared child. It's breathing in the middle of chaos and realizing, I can choose not to be swept away by this. I can feel what's coming, without becoming what I'm feeling. And that small conscious choice is a key. It doesn't change the world out there, but it changes your frequency, and that changes the world that responds to you. You start to understand that you don't need to win every argument, or always have the last word, or be understood by someone still stuck in their own noise. You start to realize that keeping your peace is worth more than proving any point. And here's one thing that needs to be clear. Keeping peace isn't staying silent. It isn't accepting everything. It isn't submitting. It's choosing to act from a place of clarity. It's deciding to respond and no longer react. But there's something even more dangerous than losing your peace, and almost no one notices it in time. It's when you start to believe you don't have a choice, when reactivity becomes a habit, when the way you respond to the world becomes so automatic that you don't even realize you're repeating the same story day after day, scene after scene, with different characters, but the same ending. That's where the pattern is born. You get annoyed, snap back, regret it, feel guilty, and then do it again. Someone disrespects you, you swallow it, stay quiet, explode later, and then do it again. You want to say no, but you say yes, and then get frustrated, and the cycle closes once more. And the most insidious part is that you don't even realize you're doing it, because your mind keeps telling you that's just how it is, that you're impulsive, that you can't control everything. But that's not true. That's just an old script running on loop. If you always react the same way, you're going to live the same life. Even if you change cities, relationships, jobs, you could even change your body, but you'll still carry the same frequency. And as Thoth said, frequency creates the field, and the field creates the experience. So what's at stake here isn't just feeling good or avoiding conflict, it's your destiny. Because what you tolerate programs what you attract. Every time you accept something that goes against your truth, even silently, you're teaching the universe how to treat you. You're saying yes, vibrationally, even if your mouth says no. That's why people repeat destructive relationships. They change partners, but keep living the same pain. Because the emotional reaction to conflict is always the same. Because the breaking point was never healed. Because behind it all, the response still comes from the same place: survival. And here's the detail that changes everything. You're not living your life. You're just reacting to it. Each trigger, each comment, each little frustration is pulling up an old, automatic, addictive response. And while that's happening, your vibrational field is stuck in the past. You're not in the present. You're reliving what already was, and recreating in the now what you say you want to leave behind. But what if, instead of reacting, you could observe? Not with coldness, not with control, but with awareness, with presence. When you can create that space between the stimulus and the response, a window opens, a window where choice exists, and that choice redefines the path. Not because you became a calm, zen, perfect person, but because you stopped handing your life over to old reflexes. That's when the game changes, because you step out of the role of emotional puppet and start stepping into your vibrational throne. And yes, it takes practice. And yes, at first you'll forget, you'll react, you'll fall. But every time you remember, you reinforce a new code, and that new code starts rewriting your reality from the inside out. But there's an even deeper point, where your choice begins to program the invisible, even before you think. The forgotten channel of healing. This point is what you consume, not just with your mouth, but with your eyes, your ears, your heart. What you allow in becomes what you radiate out. It doesn't seem like a big deal at first. A song here, a video there, a sugary meal after a hard day. But all of it vibrates. All of it leaves a trace. All of it speaks to your energetic field. And here's something almost no one gets. You are not just what you feel. You are also what you allow. And what you allow silently shapes what you become. Picture your field as a temple, a sacred space. And everything that enters, every lyric from a song, every image you watch, every food you eat, is like a visitor. Some elevate, others drain. And little by little, without realizing it, you start carrying the weight of things that don't belong inside. And no, this isn't moralism. This is vibrational physics. The songs you listen to, even without paying attention, keep playing in the back of your mind like silent mantras. Those lyrics about betrayal, scarcity, abandonment, suffering, repeat so often that they end up being absorbed as truths. And you don't even realize you're programming your mind with someone else's pain. The same goes for what you watch: movies, series, content that feed fear, anger, drama. You watch thinking it's just entertainment, but your subconscious doesn't have that filter. To it, everything is real. And if it's real, it reacts. With tension, with insecurity, with instability. And food. Every food carries a frequency. Some bring you into presence, others disconnect you. And that's why so many people feel drained, even without doing anything physical. Because their field is intoxicated by everything that entered without awareness. Thoth already said, "As in the visible, so in the invisible. As above, so below." And that's the key to understanding that what you consume on the material plane creates direct ripples in your energetic plane. But no one talks about it, because it's easier to treat food as diet, music as taste, media as distraction. But when you understand that everything is vibration, you understand that every choice is a silent vote. You're either voting for the expansion of your consciousness, or you're reinforcing what keeps you stuck in the cycle. The good news is that no one can choose that for you. You are the guardian of your temple. You have the power to open or close the door, to say, "This, yes, that, no." And when you claim that power with firmness, something starts to realign. Your mind gets clearer, your body responds better, your intuition becomes sharper, and you start to realize that the constant anxiety, the recurring lack of motivation, the mood swings, most of the time, they weren't you. They were just reflections of everything you were letting in. And the most surprising part is that the power you activate at this point is the same one the ancients called the key of divine will. But there's a detail almost no one sees. The divine will doesn't show up through obligation. It shows up through flow, and flow only exists when you allow energy to move, without pressure, without goals, without having to constantly prove yourself. The world screams that you have to produce, you have to deliver, you have to show results, you have to be useful. But the soul doesn't want performance. It wants creation. It wants space. It wants lightness. It wants a place where it can express itself without being measured, judged, or corrected. And that's why so many people end up emotionally unwell. Not because they don't have talent, but because they suffocate what they feel, because they stop believing in what doesn't bring profit, because they abandon the joy of doing something just for the sake of it, with no reason, no reward, no obligation. But spontaneous creation is not a luxury, it's a spiritual necessity. When you dance for no reason, paint with no technique, write with no outline, you're moving stuck energy. You're dissolving blocks that therapy can't reach, that medicine can't touch, that logic can't solve. Thoth taught this without calling it a hobby. He said the creator man is the one who heals his wounds without hurting anyone else. The one who takes internal chaos and transforms it into rhythm, color, movement, sound. Because that is the true power of creation, to turn shadow into art, pain into beauty, excess into presence. And you don't have to be an artist, you don't have to know how to paint, sing, or sculpt. You just have to let yourself express what's inside, in whatever way you can. Even if no one sees it, even if it comes out weird, even if you laugh at it later. That space of free expression is one of the most forgotten channels of healing. Because we were taught that doing something for pleasure is a waste of time. And that's one of the biggest lies you were ever told. Because when you allow yourself to create without expecting results, you step out of the mind's logic and into the soul's field. And in that field, there is no right or wrong. There's only flow. There's only release. And it's in that space that the body relaxes. The mind quiets. The heart reopens. And your vibrational field begins to rebalance itself, without effort, without technique, just by allowing. Creation is like a river. If you block it, it rots. If you release it, it heals everything it touches. And if you're hearing this now, maybe it's because it's time to remember that. To pick up a pencil, put on some music, do something just to do it. Because your field has been asking for this for a long time. But that power only activates when you dare to open up to what you don't yet know. The values that anchor the soul. And opening up isn't just about letting things in. Opening up is about letting go of control. It's about stopping the need to predict, calculate, and plan every detail of what's going to happen. Because the mind wants certainty, but the spirit just wants space. The mind needs guarantees. It needs to know how, when, and why. But the spirit lives differently. It responds to the now. It trusts the unseen. It moves by feeling, not by logic. And that's why when you open the mind too much and close the heart, everything gets stuck. You want to change your life, but you want to know exactly how it's going to happen. You want a new path, but only if it's already paved, lit, and clearly marked. But real miracles don't travel the road of certainty. They come through shortcuts you never imagined. That's why opening up isn't passive. It's active. It's vibrational. It's when you stop demanding control over the form and start holding the frequency of what you desire. You don't know how the universe will deliver, but you know how you want to feel when it arrives. And that feeling is what has to be maintained, because nothing comes to you through logic. It comes through alignment, and the more you try to control the means, the more you block the outcome. It's like holding on tight to wet sand. The tighter the grip, the more it slips away. But if you open your hand, the sand stays. Control comes from a mind that's afraid. Surrender comes from a spirit that trusts. But here's an essential detail. Surrender isn't about accepting anything. It's not about settling. It's not about giving up. Surrendering is knowing exactly what you want to vibrate and letting go of the attachment to how it's going to happen. It's a paradox. You don't let go because you gave up. You let go because you know what you deserve, and you know you don't have to force it to receive it. But that opening only works if you know what's non-negotiable within you. Because if you open up without roots, you get lost in the wind. And that's where we hit a crucial point. Your values. They're what anchor you when everything around you is shifting, when the world pressures you to conform, when opportunities show up but demand a price that wounds your soul. That's when values speak louder than promises, and that's what decides whether you align or sell out. Value is what you don't trade. It's what upholds your identity when no one's watching. It's what protects you from choices that seem right but cost your peace. And if you don't know what yours are, you'll accept anything. Freedom, truth, love, courage. They're not just pretty words. They're invisible anchors. They're codes of vibrational integrity, and when you live by them, something shifts in your field. You stop attracting confusing experiences because you no longer vibrate uncertainty. You know what's a yes and what's a no. And the universe respects those who respect themselves. Thoth taught this clearly. He said, "Without inner law, the soul is a foreigner in its own temple," meaning, without strong values, you feel lost even inside yourself. You become a visitor in your own life. And the most interesting part is that these values aren't made up. They were in you before culture, before school, before family. They're imprinted in your essence. And when you recognize them, you begin to build a life that actually makes sense. A life where choices stop being reactions and become declarations. But not everyone is ready for that. Because living by your values means cutting ties that drain you, saying no to things that once gave you status, owning who you are, even when it makes others uncomfortable. That's why most people can't hold that frequency. And it's exactly because of that Thoth's message was so feared. The power no one can take away. Not because it was dark, but because it was too clear, because it said what no one wanted to hear, that there's no one to blame, that there's no savior, that there's no one but you in control of the vibrational command of your existence. This is the essence of the most feared message of all. You have the power to decide in every moment, who you are. And that changes absolutely everything. Because as long as you believe someone can take something from you, you stay stuck. Stuck in the illusion that you need to fight to get back what was yours. Stuck in the idea that trauma defines who you are. Stuck in the past, hoping the future will fix it. But when Thoth said the universe is mental, he wasn't talking about the rational mind. He was talking about the creative consciousness that manifests in the now. And this is where everything collapses for those still asleep. Because if you have that power all the time, then everything that was taken, forgotten, diminished, was only possible because, on some level, you allowed it. You allowed others to define your worth. You allowed fear to speak louder than intuition. You allowed yourself to forget what could never be taken. You allowed pain to silence the truth that already lived in you. And the truth is, no one can give you what you already are. They can only remind you. They can only activate you. But owning that requires spiritual maturity. Because it's easier to blame the world. It's easier to say the system blocks you, society limits you, childhood broke you. It's more comfortable to say you lack luck, opportunity, or support. But once you understand this message, there's nowhere left to hide. Because the truth calls you to the center, and in the center, there's no distraction, no excuse, only decision. And that decision isn't mental, it's vibrational. You don't need to declare who you are, you need to sustain who you are. And that sustaining is silent. It's felt, it's perceived in your field. That's why people around you respond differently when you reconnect with this power. Effortlessly, without explanation. Reality starts to respond. And it doesn't respond because you beg. It responds because you emanate. And the universe responds to your vibration, not your speech. That is divine power. Not a power that shows off, but a power that manifests. A field that doesn't need to prove anything, because it already is. It's the power of presence, decision, and inner integrity. It's the reminder that the divine was never outside. And that true manifestation begins when you stop asking and start choosing. And when that power is remembered, reality begins to bow before you, because it recognizes who commands the field. This is the final code, and it was always with you. It didn't come from outside. It wasn't inherited. It isn't tied to any technique. This code doesn't depend on mantras, gurus, courses, or rituals. It is simple. So simple, it was ignored. Because the mind seeks complexity, but the divine reveals itself in what remains even when everything falls apart. And what remains? Self-love remains, which doesn't need to be earned, only remembered. Because if you were born, you are already worthy. Inner peace remains, which doesn't depend on external silence, but on your ability not to let chaos set the rhythm of your spirit. Vibrational choice remains. What you choose to feel, even when everything pushes you into autopilot. Your presence remains. Your ability to be here, now, whole, without a past that holds you back or a future that steals you away. Conscious will remains. Your yes that is complete and your no that is firm. And your values remain, because they are the invisible pillars that support all the other choices. When Thoth said the universe is mental, he was talking about this living matrix that responds to what you sustain. And that's where true divine power is. Not in moving mountains with your hands, but in moving frequencies with coherence. It's not about having gifts. It's about not forgetting. And now, you're no longer forgotten. Everything said up to this point wasn't to convince you. It was to remind you. Because this code, this field, this truth, already lived inside you. True divine power is not the one that conquers. It's the one that can't be taken. You can lose everything, possessions, people, situations. But if you are anchored in this, you remain free, because no one can take what is essence. And if no one can take it, then it's real. And if it's real, it's non-negotiable. This is Thoth's code. The hidden key of manifestation isn't control. It's coherence. It's not about doing. It's about being. And now that this code has been activated in you, it can't be deactivated. You'll feel it when something is out of alignment. You'll notice when you give away your power without realizing. And you'll choose to return. Because now you know what matters, and you know what no one can take from you. Now that you've remembered, you're no longer under the game of external manipulation. You've become the field. If this message activated something inside you, write this in the comments right now. I have a divine power, and no one can take it from me. This phrase isn't just a comment. It's a vibrational declaration. It anchors the frequency that was awakened here. And it might activate someone who reads it too. And if you want to support this channel and help spread more content like this, there's a link in the first pinned comment where you can contribute to this mission. Your vibration is part of this. And hey, don't go just yet. We've saved a special video that's a direct continuation of this awakening. It's right there on the screen, and when you click it, you'll feel like it was meant to be. Go for it, and we'll see you on the other side.